something really important is going to happen in a short time, if either by the end of this month or probably 2 months from now, the most. I think this will kick in already. Okay, and that particular thing I want to talk about today is the US debt ceiling. This is very, very crucial. Okay, now the US government here has already hit its debt ceiling of 31.4 trillion. To give you an idea, 1 million has 6 zeros behind, right? So when we talk about 1 billion, that is 1,000 million is 1 billion. 1 trillion is 1,000 billion. So the US debt currently is at 31.4 trillion US dollars. So when the US government hit its debt ceiling, it only means that the US government is not allowed to borrow any more via bond issuing to spend. And when the US cannot spend, it spells trouble for them. Now, the last time the debt ceiling was raised was in December 2021, not far from here. And the total increment at that time was 2.5 trillion. That's a lot, right? So if the US debt ceiling is not raised, the negotiations is not raised, and the US government defaults, and this is what the people say the Armageddon of financial systems. If the US really defaults on its payment, it would fundamentally undermine the US dollars, as its credit rating will drop. It has dropped before. Okay, this has happened before in 2011 during Obama's time. Okay, it has dropped, where politicians from the both sides, they cannot come to an agreement and the default happens. That's really, really bad. Now, in my previous reports, I've already said that the Republicans has already passed a bill to raise the debt ceiling, but as expected, it was flatly rejected by the Democrats. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail because we have addressed this in the previous report, right? So yes, it's ongoing. So, but last week, right, the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen urged the Congress to raise the debt ceiling as soon as possible, because she predicts that the US could run out of cash and extraordinary measures to pay its bill as soon as early June. Okay, so if you talk about early June, that's like 2 weeks away. I do not think so. I think she is just being careful. Okay, but this is something that you all need to be prepared. Okay, so but I think in the past the calculations were somewhere nearer to July that the US will run out of cash. Okay, now that are the things that, remember last time I talked about this. That's why I think that it can be somewhere July. Now, she stressed during this interview here that the US default would severely affect the value of the US dollar. And don't forget, the US dollar is under attack right now by foreign countries also that are not happy when the US armed their currency during the Ukraine war. Okay, so that is something that we need to really, really understand. Now, the Republican lower house, headed by Kevin McCarthy, Kevin McCarthy, are looking for lower taxes, lower interest rates, and the most important, lower dependency on China. Okay, they are looking for this. The Republicans are looking for this. Now, expect last-minute bargains to happen between the Republicans and Biden administration to avert the US government defaulting on its debt. Okay. Now, I like to stress over here, that's why I bold it. We would see both sides coming to an eventual agreement, because this debt ceiling thing is more like a political tool for use by both sides to get some, something out to give advantage to their party. Okay. Like I said, it would eventually come to agreement, but the length, how fast they come to it, the longer it takes, it can cause significant damage to the economy, just like previous bargains. Now, Mark Zandi, the chief economist at Moody's Analytics, recommended a suspension of the limit until September 30th to allow adequate time for Congress and the president to negotiate a compromise. Would that happen? We don't know. This is what economists they are suggesting. Now, to me, because this is that it's a foregone conclusion, they will come to an eventual agreement. But to me, I like to go a few steps further. So the more important matter, the pressing matter, is not whether the debt ceiling would be raised or not, because it will be, but what are the effects of continuing this practice right here. Now, do remember, so far, each coming president is spending more than his predecessor. We saw Biden spending 2.5 trillion in 16 months. That's really, really a lot, right? Now, according to Jason J. Fichtner, Vice President and Chief Economist at the Bipartisan Policy Center, he said the nation's debt is on an unstable trajectory and actions must be taken now. Further delay would only make the problem worse and the necessary corrections more harmful to the country and to the most vulnerable in our society. And this is very important right now. But the thing is that spending money has been always what each and every president, new president coming in, they were doing. One is like spending more and more and more and more, So the Congressional Budget Office forecast that the US debt will reach 114 trillion in the next 30 years. That would be 200% of the country's gross domestic product. So it's not really a very good future for the US, if they continue to do this, what they're doing today. Now, here are the few possible scenarios which can happen if the US debt goes out of hand. Okay, a dramatic increase in US debt will erode the confidence in the US dollar stability and potentially lead to shift in international trade and financial relationships. We are already seeing this with the BRICS. Okay, the union of a few our economic nations, namely Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. We are seeing this already, right? Then, as government borrows more money to cover its obligations, it increases the money supply, which can devalue the currency and cause price to rise. Then this would erode the purchasing power of the US dollars, leading to high inflation rates. Also, we are already seeing this happening, but we are talking this at even a higher rate than we are looking right now, right? So inflation to rise again, the confidence in the US dollars will drop. And then one more is that as US reach high debt levels, it becomes more challenging for governments to find buyers for its bonds, because the confidence is not there. You are like, you're spending more than you're earning. So technically, sooner or later, you're going to be bankrupt and you cannot pay because you only know how to spend, right? So to attract buyers, US would need to raise its interest rate to attract buyers, right? So we have already witnessed how high interest rates reduce borrowings and investments and thus impact the economy and the value of the US dollars. We have seen that already. So it's not going to be an easy thing. That's why they're saying that, hey, you want to do something, you better do it right now. because we are at 30 plus trillion in debt. And many think that if we start from 30, it's much easier to start when we are at the 100 level, right? So understand this, but at the same time, I don't want to create that thought that if I say this and everybody's worried already, and then what should happen next? They're scared, right? They're scared and then they don't do anything. The market is always there, the market is always around, and when you trade, it can go up, it can go down. You're trading, you can make from both ways. But I would just want you to know that, you know, this kind of information is for you to equip yourself in what to do next. Right. So for that to understand that, we have to look in the past, what really happened. And for that, I want to share with you, how did the stock market react in the past debt ceiling fights? Now, one of the most contentious debt ceiling negotiations was in 2011, which I told you, Obama's time, right? That led to the first ever downgrade of the US from its AAA rating by Standard & Poor's. And we saw the S&P drop 17%, right there, about there. And in 2013, I'm choosing the most recent ones, you know, so we can understand, yeah? In 2013, the S&P dropped 4%. So we can actually go right in the middle and say maybe this time they can drop about 10.5% if you take both and divide by 2. We can, you know, the 17 plus 4, we can do that. Is it, or you just keep it simple, 10% drop in it, okay, or plus a bit more. So these are the things in our mind. It can drop just only 4%, or it can drop right up to 17%, or even more than 17%. The negotiations turn really ugly. But the most important thing here is that both instances, after everything is over, the S&P rose more than 20%. So those are the stats. Can it repeat? Most certainly. But so what we need to do is just have this idea, what can happen before, what can happen after, and if these price structures are supporting that, by all means. And this is how we react to the market, not just, oh, because this bad news, I'm going to hide under the pillow or put my head under the ground. That's it. No, that's not the way we do things, okay? So for a conclusion, the day of reckoning will come for the US dollars to lose its #1 currency reserve status. Okay, to me, I don't think it's going to disappear, but if the US continue to spend like this, yeah, sooner or later it's going to happen. It's just crazy. All right. So the US, to solve this, the US needs to implement fiscal consolidation measures, such as reining on its spending. It cannot spend that much already. So that's why one of the things the Republicans are asking the Democrats to do with the, if you want me to pass this bill that I've already said in the law, you know, you have to stop your spending. And one of it is actually all the COVID money that was printed and not spent, that must be returned. So that is one of the important things that the Republicans have said. Raising taxes is one more important thing, and other actions to reduce the debt burden. Currently, taxes that is being, you know, the taxes that they get back is not enough to cover at all. And when these hard things, they introduce these things, they are going to be hard. And these kind of actions could impact the economy growth, employment, and the value of the US dollars in the short term. But most importantly, if they do that from right now, it will preserve the US dollar #1 status, as no other countries can match the size and depth of the US economy, along with its technological advancements and innovations at this moment. Okay, no other countries. That's the old thing that's saving the US right now. Okay, I don't think other countries have that ability at this moment. Now, US still has the most stable political and legal system independent judiciary, and a robust institutional framework that supports economic growth and stability. These factors attract foreign investments, foster entrepreneurship, and create an environment conducive to innovation and productivity. So that's the thing. I understand that you get a lot of news from YouTube, even because I read a lot about financial stuff, and when I go on YouTube, right, sometimes I watch CNBC, so there are recommendations what to watch. My God, if you look at those videos, I don't think you'll be so afraid. They have things like the US dollars is going to zero. you know uh, it really scares people. Okay. But things take time, a long time. Even US were to lose its #1 reserve currency status, it won't go to zero. Okay, the UK pound is still around when they lost its power to the US after they signed the Bretton Woods Agreement. So it's still around. It's the usage that will drop. Okay, not the currency, but the usage that will drop. But of course, value will drop. Definitely, you can't run away from that. When people don't use that much, then your value drop. That's economic, right? 101. No, there's no demand, then price will drop. As simple as that. Okay. Right.